Hello there, my name's Steve, and you are listening and tuned into the Go Football podcast. So, on the podcast this week, something a little bit different. I finally managed to get a guest on, and I was really excited to get this guest on as well. So, you may have seen him on some social medias as well. His name's Chris, and he's from the Scouting Game, and we are going to be talking today, and I'll be asking some questions about scouting in grassroots football and how that goes through into an academy and even into the professional game too. So, Chris is from the Scouting Game. He's on. Let's cue the whistle and let's get into it. So a big welcome back then to the Go Football podcast. So we are joined this week, excitedly, with Chris from the Scouting Game. So Chris is going to talk to us all about scouting, how it works within Grassroots, and maybe some of the academy stuff and maybe some professional stuff too as well. So big thank you, Chris, for coming on and joining the podcast. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, delighted to be on. I've enjoyed the podcast, so it's good to be here.
Excellent. Thanks very much. Look, a lot of people, I love all of the little clips that you have as well. I do think you should have a role reverse at sometimes, what it's like living with a football scout. Maybe you need to do a role reversal behind the camera one time, maybe. But, you know, your clips are great. I think that some of the information you can get out in 60 seconds and answering some of those questions is great. But hopefully today we can go into a little bit more detail on some of the questions that people are really looking for. But for anyone that doesn't know, tell us a little bit about yourself, about the scouting that you've done, some of the experiences you've got. And, you know, if you want to drop a few names as well, then always happy for you to do that too.
Yeah, sure. So I've been in the game a long time. I played a bit and then I coached at Manchester City before they had any money. Portsmouth, who've never had any money.
Oh, wow.
And other clubs. And I went into non-league management. I managed various non-league clubs. And I managed Cheltenham Town and full-time clubs and the FA 11 and what have you. But then I took a conscious decision, must be 20 odd years ago now, to go into scouting. So I always enjoyed the talent ID part of the job, you know. So I've been doing that a long time. I had 12 years nearly at Chelsea's academy up till November 23 when I left. So that was through the time when arguably Chelsea is the best academy in the world. And that was a fantastic experience. I'm a Chelsea fan, as it happens. So it's a double whammy when you work in the club that you support as well, having worked with lots of others. And I got to work with some great coaches and scouts and players and great people. So fantastic experience. And when I was there, I was doing a lot of academy scouting. That's where you go out and you're watching players for other, you know, at other academies that you want to buy, you know. And I managed a team that did that. And so we scouted people like Billy Gilmore, Ethan Ampadu, and going up more up to date. Some of your watchers and listeners would have seen Shimi Mahueka, who's 17 at Chelsea, and he scoring goals all the time in the 21s, plays for England. The youngest player I think he was to play for Chelsea in Europe a couple of months ago, you know, so he's one of the next stars coming through. Well, I know Shimi a long time. I had to pursue him to sign him over many years. Funnily enough, I saw his dad last Saturday and his mum, and we were catching up, and we finally got him over the line from Brighton when he was an under 14, and so he's a great lad, great talent, and I'm really enjoying seeing him now, just on the verge of breaking into Chelsea's first team. You always, as a scout, I think you have to look forward. You know, you can talk about and be proud of who you've seen or who you've passed up. You know, I was once watching an England game, and one of my sons texted me and said, "You realise you said no to 3 of these players that were playing for England."
Wow.
You know, Jadon Sancho, Dele Alli, Joe Gomez, to name just a few. So
Yeah.
if you're in long enough, you have to take the ones that you maybe arguably didn't get right on the chin as well. But you have to look forward, because you have to have that energy to go on to the next game, you know, the next game, the next day, the next player. There's always other players, and that's what drives you on game, I think.
Yeah. And I suppose sometimes it's just not the right time for those type of players that you're looking for, really. You know, sometimes, you know, I did the podcast a few episodes ago about rejection in grassroots football, and you know, sometimes it's not even their fault. It's just what you're looking for at that time, then as well. So generally, when you're going out for scouting, are you looking for a type of player that the manager has said, find someone that can play this pivot player, or find this kind of winger, or find this sort of strong centre back, or are you generally going out and trying to find players that are footballers that will they can train to do those different things?
Well, both. So I manage a big team of scouts now in my day job at an academy, and so we will be telling our scouts all the time, we need these types of players or that type of player at different ages. It could be 9, 10, 11 years old, and you're looking not so much for positions then, but maybe a different type of player to balance up your squad. So there would always be priorities. And scouts' first job, if someone gets that, they're gets a gig as a scout at an academy or a club, your first job is you've got to know your own players. You've got to know who's there and what you need. And it may sound an obvious thing to say, but you see so many young people get their first job as a scout, and they're so keen to go out and find players. And I always say, hang on, watch your own team, watch your own sides, know what it is you need, know what the standard is. So we have to make sure people can do that. But then also, it's even if you're going out looking for a left back, say, you never know, which is one of the great things about scouting. You might be going out, and this has happened to me many times. You're going out to look at one player, and it's another one that catches your eye, and that's the one that you might in or whatever. So you have to have an open mind, even when you're targeted. I personally, I've done a whole range of scouting: grassroots scouting, academy scouting, first team scouting, opposition scouting. And the scouting I most enjoy is when I'm going to watch one particular player and doing a detailed assessment of that one individual player. I find that the most enjoyable. But I still have to do the whole range. I've been out summer, seems a long time ago, but it's not. In the summer tournaments, the grassroots tournaments, still go out and do that. Well, so I do the whole range, and it's different. Sometimes you might have a specific player in mind. Other times you're just looking for good players,
Yeah, and I think that there's a whole mystery regarding scouting. I think that especially for a lot of grassroots coaches and parents of grassroots, I mean, it's great now. You're seeing so many things like VO, parents recording. You see all of these different things put in highlight reels. I saw your video regarding the highlight reels and people sending you those kind of things too. But I think that scouting seems to start much younger. I coach a group of under eights, and I had one of the parents come to me this time and said, "Oh, he's been scouted by Leicester. He's got a block at Leicester." I was like, "Great. Get him to listen, honestly, let him go as well. If he needs to come back, he can come back. No problem whatsoever as well." And we're trying
Yeah.
to develop players so they get caught like that. But I think with some parents is when they hear there's a scout there as well. Do you find that announcing yourself, you maybe get a different reception when you turn up to a grassroots club, when you turn up with your scouting badge, or do you sometimes try and hide it inside the jacket and stand back a little bit? What's the
Well,
approach like?
I always get our scouts, the scouts I've managed at various clubs, when they're doing grassroots scouting, they should wear the club kit, which we should provide for a number of reasons. They've got to look professional, first of all. So you want them to look smart. They are your club. When they're speaking to the parent, they are your club, so they've got to look right. But also, in grassroots, it lets parents and players know we're interested. We as a club, whoever we are, we're interested in your games, your league, your ages or whatever. So I think it's a sort of a PR element to it as well. There's also to some extent, a safeguarding element, because you also have to have obviously your photo ID, and so that's really important from a safeguarding view. But it's all part of the process. So yeah, you do get parents and players who respond and will come up. I've had over the years, many parents come up and say, "Oh, will you come and look at my son?" Or "Are you here to look at my son?" And I might never have heard them, or daughter, of course. And so people do respond in funny ways, in strange ways. And there is an argument. They say, "Well, oh, my kid was nervous because you were here, and you were watching, and they didn't play as well as they usually do because there was a scout watching." And I understand that. But then I say to them, "Do you think your son will be nervous if he stepped out at Bramall Lane, in front of 40 odd thousand,
I
or
would be.
Old Trafford?" Yeah, or 72,000 or whatever it is at Old Trafford.
Yeah.
I think, all is about overcoming nerves, the professional game. More my interest in scouting players is for the elite game, and so I understand all the time that great numbers, the great majority of players are playing because they want to enjoy the game and they love it, and they're playing with their mates and they're having fun, and that's fantastic. I have to work the professional end. which is elite sport. Any elite sport, you have selection, and where there's selection, there's disappointment. So that's the world I'm in, which is not the normal world, or even the healthier world, perhaps of sport for all. That's not what I do. So there is selection. So it does mean players are going to be pushed. They're going to be out of their comfort zone. They're going to be under the spotlight. And as you know, if someone comes into an academy and they start on that pathway to professional football, it is one challenge after another. You know, I was watching an under-15 game in the week and speaking to one of the boys afterwards, and he said he was nervous. He was actually physically ill before the game. And I was quite surprised because I didn't think he was a nervy type. And he said, but his first time, it was actually a stadium. He said, it's the first time I played in a stadium like this, and there was a couple of hundred people there, not a huge crowd. And he'd never experienced that before. Now he's overcome that, and he goes on. So it's a series of challenges, a series of hurdles, and a scout turning up is a fairly mild one, really, in the scheme of things, if someone's going to progress in the game.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting to see that they were like that then, really, you know, because I thought that's one of the things that they all kind of expect. You know, when someone says, oh, you're going to be a professional footballer, they instantly jump to like one of the bigger teams. I want to play for Man United, Man City, Barcelona, I want to play for Real Madrid. You know, that's where they kind of all want to drop in and say that's where they want to go and play, knowing that the crowd's there as well. I think that Barcelona, I think it's like 90,000 is or 90,000 season ticket holders, I believe, something like that. Anyway, there's some crazy figures out for them too. So, you know, they've got to be expecting that at some point. But, you know, I think that's something that a lot of them have to do, isn't it? It's a challenge after a challenge after a challenge. It's a challenge to get scouted, then it's a challenge to fit into the team and then meet the standard of the team, and then also retained all the way back through. I refereed a game with two academies a few weeks ago, which was Leicester Watford boys. I think it was under 13s, and I won't say which team it was as well, but one of the coaches kind of said like 50% of these lads will not be here next season. Like, we will not be having 50% of these. We will be looking for 50% new. Like, they've not quite met where they're at the moment, which sounds pretty harsh with it. But again, that doesn't mean that they can't come back eventually as well. It just means that they've got to go away, maybe work on something. Maybe it's just not their time. Maybe they're not just quite right for the team too. So what is a good approach from a scout? What should parents kind of expect if someone is going to a grassroots game and there's a scout there as well? What's the kind of process? Do they just turn up, walk up and say, right, next week we need you at St Mary's, or we need you at Stamford Bridge, or wherever it is that you are. We need you there as well. You're turning up. Tell your manager you're not turning up anymore. What's the real process for it? Because I think that I think a lot of parents and a lot of players will be interested to see what a good approach should be like. Because you hear some horror stories sometimes of, oh, someone turned up, they're a scout as well, and they've gone over and they've done everything kind of behind closed doors, or you kind of hear that, or you hear that from, I think you generally hear that from a lot of coaches. But I think that some scouts, and the ones that I've ever been involved with and seen and have been to come and watch my players before, have always sat on the sidelines, been out of the way, kind of looked at it. You know, we knew that they were turning up beforehand as well. We've had parents involved and all the rest of it. But what's a good approach really look like in grassroots?
Well, the first essential thing is a grassroots. A scout must not approach the parents or player direct. They must go to the coach of the team. So that's the first. That's the rules. That's the code of conduct that is there with the Premier League, who organise academy football. So if you're working for an academy, you cannot approach parents direct. You have to go to the coach. So my approach would be, if you were the coach and you know, I was interested in one of your players, or even if I wasn't actually, but I'd just been to the game, I would come over after the game at a suitable time, maybe before the game if there's a moment, but after the game. Not if you just got beat 6-0, you might want to have a moment, or you're speaking to the players or whatever. So I try and pick my moment, make it convenient, not during the game. And I would introduce myself. I would show you my photo ID, from safeguarding point of view, very important. So I can say, look, this is me. I'm from whatever club. And I would talk about the game. And if there was a particular player, I might say to you, I particularly liked your number 10. So what can you tell me about them? And you might say, oh, yeah, been with us all the way through since, 6 years old or whatever. And I said, well, I'd like to invite him into a development centre or whatever the next step might be. Is it okay with you if I talk to the parents? And hopefully you will say, yeah, the parents or one of the parents or guardian, whatever, here, I'll introduce you, and away we go. Even if I wasn't interested in a particular player, a good process for a scout is to come and introduce themselves and say to you what club they're from. Well, what's the best team you've played this year? Who's the best player who's played against you? You know, and coaching, we're all football people. We want to talk about, oh, you need to go and watch whoever, you know, they're a great team. We can't get close to them. And okay, and you're building a network. If you have a business card, as scouts should do, then you would leave that with them as well and say, look, you ever see a player that you think would be interesting? And that's how you build a network. And scouting at Grassroots is all about network. There's a guy who works for Chelsea called Ray Rembridge. He's been there a long time. I don't know how many players Ray's had signed at Chelsea now. It must be over 100. So, Reece James, whose shirt's behind me, Conor Gallagher, Trevor Chalobah, and on and on. You know, all come from Ray Rembridge. And when you go out with in Southwest London, which is his area, and I've been to many games with him over the years, knowing him really well. When you go to a game with Ray, it takes you forever to get out onto the pitch or by the side of the pitch because everybody is stopping him because they know him. He's such a gentleman, such a nice guy, treats people really well. He's been doing it for a long time, and he knows everybody. And so he's getting players, as we say, thrown into him all the time. And that's good grassroots scouting, good reputation, good manners. You know, he's polite to people, does what he says he's going to do, and you build a network. And so that's the way you have to do it as to develop as a grassroots scout. But they're the rules. You must go to the club coach or manager first. Now, in my experience, I say I've been doing it a long time. 95% of coaches are happy to see their player get a chance to go on to whatever it might be, a development centre game, or maybe into a formal trial if you're ready to do that, or whatever it might be. And so they will usually be cooperative. There are a few, occasionally, who don't want their players to go off to a pro club. And I have had this over the years. They say, "Oh no, we're going to leave it to the end of the season." You know, they might not admit that they're after the league title or the cup or whatever. You know, they're chasing pots, as we say. We want to keep the team together, or no, you know, no one's interested in academy football. And you think, oh, really? Now we have to be polite, and we have to take that as, you know, that is it. We can't then say, oh, well, tough, I'm going to go and speak to the parent. But I've got to be honest. I've trained loads of scouts over the years for the clubs that I've worked at, and I always say to them, that is a no that you can go and approach the parent then, but that doesn't mean that you forget about that player. You might start finding out about that player if you've got their name. They might be playing for one team on a Saturday and another on the Sunday. You know, and you can go to both. You go to both games. You might find out from other parents that you know, and again, it's all about network. You might find out that they're go to a particular school. You might be able to see them in a school game. So you don't give up as a scout, but you have to still follow the right process.
It's quite because that's a really good insight then to some of the players as well, especially, you know, not always giving up on them on the first go, you know, seeing them on the first time and maybe seeing if they are playing Saturdays and Sundays or going to school games and all the rest of it. That's great. What about for the older players? Because there's a lot of, when I mean in older players, probably the ones that have moved through the 5v5, the 7v7, the 9v9s and are into that 11v11 where I think a lot of the time people are trying to find their positions then, aren't they? They're trying to think of like, oh, I'm a centre back, I'm a midfielder, I'm a goalkeeper, or whatever it is that they do as well. You know, is it different for them at that age group for you to go and pick out someone, or is it more interesting to go and watch someone when they're playing in a full-size game as opposed to those smaller-sided football games?
Well, the first thing to say is that for most academy recruitment departments, the priority age is 6, 7, and 8. They're the most important ages to recruit players. You have them longer. The gap between grassroots football and academy football is very narrow then. As you get older, the gap begins to widen and it gets harder. So by the time, let's say someone's 14 and under 14, they're playing 11 aside, then the gap on terms of game awareness, standard as games, the intensity of games, the tempo, is wider and wider. Even the best of grassroots is going to be a long way off a Cat 1 academy for sure, and their games. So it doesn't mean we don't recruit people at those ages. We do. I was involved in scouting an under 14 at the end of last season, and he came into my club in the August when he just becoming an under 15, signed in the September, played for England in the November.
Wow,
So
that's a great change round.
yeah, amazing, isn't it? And good luck to him. So that it can happen, definitely. I'm not saying it can, but it is harder because when you come into the academy, the games are so much quicker. The players are so much, and you can lose your way, not be, your confidence can take a hit and makes it hard in a trial because the things that you usually do that work well are not happening. You're not going past players as easy, maybe, So, excuse me. So it does get harder as you get older, but it is still really interesting. I personally prefer my coaching and my managing career was mostly with adults, obviously in the adult game. It's only as a scout that we've done the young for 20 odd years or whatever it might be. Scouting has been right through the whole range of ages. So I personally always prefer the 11-a-side games. I just enjoy them more. And so by that time, you are looking maybe for certain types of positions or types of players. So when we're scouting a player who's 8, 9, 10, it doesn't matter whether they're a forward or we're looking for footballers, trying to develop footballers. Who knows? Reece James was a striker when he was 7, midfield player when he was at Chelsea up to 12, and then best right back. I'm obviously very biased. Best right back in the world. So they've changed to Ashley Cole was a striker, became, John Terry was a midfielder, became a centre back. We see this all the time.
So many, isn't there, as well? So many. Like say, Cal Walker, exactly the same striker too.
Yeah.
I think Buffon was a midfielder before he went in goal too. And I did hear that Harry Kane used to be a goalkeeper when he was at his very youngest age groups too. And someone said, get him out. He's good on the pitch too. And obviously, he was okay, wasn't he, playing out of field? So yeah, it happens all the time.
He's done all right. He's done all right, but he's a very interesting case in himself, which we can maybe come back to another time. But so you're not looking for positions at the younger age, but when you're getting older, the older boys, I think every player, when they're 15, 16, 18, they need to be able to offer to play well in 3 positions. Let's presume we do 4-3-3. I think a player's got to be able to say, I can play left back or left centre back or left centre midfield, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Why? Because if you can do that, you've got 3 shirts out of the 11 that you can wear. You've got 3
chances.
Whereas for years and years when I'm doing trial games, players come to me and they say, "Where'd you play?" I play as a 10. Well, we're playing 4-3-3 today, so we're not playing with 10. What do you want to do? And if they only play in a position, they're obviously going to be less useful. So you have to have a bit of versatility, but you can be a type of player. You can be a more defensive player. You can be, whatever your attributes might be. So you need a bit of flexibility, but yes, you're going to be more positional, and that's what the scouts in the older ages will begin to look for. We need more pace and power. We need more technical ability on the ball, whatever it might be.
Right.
And so types of player rather than out and out positions. When you get the first team scouting, then you are often, we need a left back. We need a left-footed left back who's going to play in a 4 and can roll into midfield. Okay, so last when you're looking at left backs, you wanted people that could defend. How old-fashioned that is to get. There's a lot for defenders that can win the ball. However, don't get me started on that. But now, weren't they? Effectively, left backs were wingers who play further back. You wanted people who had pace and they would be charging forward. They would have, be able to go on the outside. Now, often the coaches are saying to us recruiters, us scouts, I want a fullback, but I want him to be able to play in centre midfield as well. So Miles Lewis Skelly is a great example, of a midfield player. Always been a midfield player, Miles, and I know his mum very well. She's been here. She's friends with my wife and I. Been here for lunch, and she's terrific, Marcia. And Mars is a great player. He's a midfield player who plays. He's smart enough to be able to play as a left back, so that's great. But so the demands on positions change, but they get more specific when you're looking at first team.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, interesting to see that, they want more of those positions because, so like going outside of the scouting thing as well, maybe just pick your brain as well. But we often see a lot of players do that. I actually try and play with inverted fullbacks, by the way, as well. Very, very hard to coach at some age groups as well. But it's very much a development teams that we're doing as well. And we play JPL, so it's a good standard that we're playing and we're travelling all over. In fact, we've got one game 3.5 hours away to go for a game of football in our league as well. I think that's ridiculous, but we're going to turn up for it. We're going to play. In fact, this week they've got to do the 3.5 hours to us this week, so we can't complain. Although we've got it worse. I think we've got the week before Christmas to do 3.5 hours in the cold. It's not as nice, is it? I do think that there's a lot of players need to learn different positions too, and I do think that your point there of like if you can put 3 different shirts on, you're increasing your chances of one being picked but also being useful. And sometimes I went to a couple of CPD courses at Leicester, and they were showing some of the players that have come through the academy of where they were playing and where they started and the videos, and they picked one particular player out, and we didn't know where he was going to play until he was like 19. Like on the pitch, we just didn't have a clue really to find his best position. So I think that you'll find that a lot of the time, even with scouting, you probably notice, like I say, it's really interesting those younger age groups, like you said, and it makes so much sense that 7, 8, 9 years old, they are very, very close. Grassroots and academy football is very, very close because of the age groups and the experience they've got. And obviously, as they get older and older, that gap getting bigger and bigger, is increases the chances of them maybe not getting picked up by a pro club or anything like that too. So yeah, thanks for coming on. Look, Chris, I've kept you for long enough today as well. Thank you very much for your time. Before we go though, we all know you've got one of these. We know you've got your book out as well. So tell us about your book before we go.
Here it is, The Scouting Game, the book. I was approached by publishers a while ago and said that there's not a book out on the market about scouting written by someone who's actually done it. So as I mentioned before, range. So that's what we've done. We try to open up this world of scouting, as you suggested, which can be a bit cloak and dagger and it can be a bit murky or seem like that. So try to open up what happens, what is it scouts look for, how do we analyse players. So I tried to get a book that was suitable for parents of kids who wanted to get in, people who wanted to be scouts, wanted to develop as scouts, the general football fan to open it up. And it covers the whole range of scouting. And it's out, and you get it at Amazon and Waterstones online, all that sort of thing. And it's gone very well. It's been great, and we've had great responses. We have a business, the Scouting Game, that assesses players all over the world by video, obviously in the UK. But your point you made about the travel 3.5 hours, when we're talking to parents of players in America, that's very common that they have to do that all the time. We're
More
very
than 3.5 hours.
in England that we can usually we can find, like, you can in Sheffield, it's a proper football country, and you can find good standard of football, and that is such an advantage to have that we don't have elsewhere in the world with other players that we are assessing. So I just mentioned that we're very fortunate. Other people have to do those distances all the time. But so the book's going really well. It's all about scouting, a passion, as you know. Been doing it a long time. Want to try and sort of share some of the lessons and the stories, and they're in the book.
Excellent. Well, look, it's getting near Christmas. Let's hope that some people will click on the link, and I'm going to leave all the links and everything in the bio. So anyone that's interested in going and taking a look, getting an order of that as well. I mean, it's great for, I suppose, any of the coaches that are in Grassroots or going to academies, and for some young players too, or people that are wanting to know more as well. I'm guessing the book's going to be great for all of those people as well. So with Christmas coming up, let's hope that a few people click on the link below. But we'll add it all in the bio so everyone can check it. Okay. Chris, again, thank you so much for coming on, giving us a massive insight into, scouting from grassroots into academies and what parents and players can really expect on the whole journey of their footballing career as well, whether or not they are, like I say, right at the very start of it, those really younger ages, or maybe going into some of the older ages. And obviously for people not to give up. As you've mentioned as well, an under 15 signing up as well in August, and quickly getting into the England setup too. So, it's great to see all of those things. And again, thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure.
No worries. And we'll listen, if anyone else as well, I'm going to leave all of Chris's links, all of his bio links, everything. Go and check his TikToks out as well. 60 seconds worth of like absolute genius questions, but try and do the role reversal at some point. What it's like to live with a scout. That would be a great one, I think. I think that'll be your best one that you'll get as well. So thanks very much, Chris. Have a great day, and I'll speak to you again. So, wow, that was a great insight by Chris. This is why I was so excited to get him on as well. So much information, over decades of experience, really, of thinking about all the different things to go with scouting and things that happen in grassroots football. And really, really interesting. Honestly, the gap between everything that he said was perfect, wasn't it, really? The gap between those early ages is where we're scouting players out and finding good footballers too. So, look, you've had the experience from Chris now talking to us about what it looks like when a scout turns up, when it's a good experience, about what to expect, and some extra bits as well. So don't forget to hit follow. Don't forget to email in too. If you've really enjoyed this episode, you can get me at gofootballpod@gmail.com. Yeah, just email in. If you want to click on into the socials, you can find us on TikTok. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music. You can find us absolutely everywhere. Make sure you hit follow. Make sure you send this to someone else that's in your group too, so they can take a little listen and get all of the good experience and all the good advice that Chris has just been talking about. Finally, don't forget, if you are looking for new kits or some replacement kits, I know the season's already started as well, but just head over to Rush Sportswear. These tops are great. They fit really well. They feel really good. They keep me nice and cool when I'm actually training, when I'm doing one-to-one sessions. They're absolutely amazing. And the other one as well, don't forget, the season started. It's starting to get worse weather. Laces are coming undone. Head over to laces.com as well. The links are all in the bio for these, by the way, so it's really easy to go and find. But what they have is loads of great products, especially the bands that go over the laces, stop the shoelaces coming undone. The kids won't be running over every 5 minutes to get them all done. But when you get there and you go on and you find the products that you want, when you get to that checkout, just use the code GoFootballPod and it'll get you 10% off for as many as you need. You can always forward that over to, other people in your groups, on your WhatsApp groups, coaches, pop that in there too. They'll get 10% off and you will not be tying shoelaces anymore.